Hi, this is Dorothy Pang, licensed acupuncturist in South San Francisco, California, and today's video is about the acupuncture needle. I wanted to video today on acupuncture needles because I know that there are a lot of people that are curious about acupuncture, but they're scared of acupuncture needles. And I understand that because, of course, if we don't know anything about something, we're probably going to be apprehensive about it. So acupuncture needles are different than injection needles. They're much thinner, and it's because they have different purposes. So most people are very familiar with an injection needle. An injection needle is what a nurse would use at a clinic to, say, give you a flu shot. An injection needle is rather thick because it's actually hollow inside, so that so that liquid can pass through the needle into your under your skin. So the needles that you're used to, if you know about injection needles, are much wider than an acupuncture needle. An acupuncture needle does not have any medication in it. The purpose of an acupuncture needle is not to push any fluid into you. An acupuncture needle is just something that we use to stimulate your body and get a particular response out of it. And to do that, we don't need to have a large barrel that pushes liquid into your body. So an acupuncture needle usually actually will fit inside the barrel of the injection needle, because the injection needle needs a good amount of space inside of it in order to accommodate fluid, and an acupuncture needle is super duper thin. So let me see if the camera will catch this. This is an acupuncture needle. It does come in different thicknesses. We call them, it's measured by gauge. It depends on the acupuncturist. I tend to use a really tiny gauge of maybe 32 or 36 gauge. That's how they measure how thick the needle is. So an acupuncture needle, because it doesn't need to be big enough to push fluid through, is actually flexible. Do you see that? Try to get it against my hair. See, the needle is really soft because it's so small and thin. And then people wonder how an acupuncturist uses the acupuncture needle. So there's different ways of what we call it needling. So how do we handle the acupuncture needle? Sometimes we have a little guide tube. It can come in different colors, but it's a little plastic tube that's hollow in the middle. And what we'll do with the guide tube is we will put the needle into the guide tube, and you see how the tip of the needle sticks out just a little bit. It's supposed to do that. It's supposed to leave a little bit of exposed point, so it'll be a different length depending on the length of the needle. So what we do is we take a guide tube and we drop the needle in, and then we hold it up against the skin. I'm going to use an eraser. Hold it up against the skin, and then we tap it, and then we remove the guide tube. And the guide tube is just there to help us work really quickly. So what's funny about the body is that once the needle's in, generally my patients don't feel anything, because we're not trying to hit a blood vessel or a nerve most of the time. We're just trying to get the needle in past the skin. And so the body might react to something on the skin, but if we're super fast, most of the time my patients don't feel anything. They just feel my fingers on their skin, and they don't feel the actual needle going in. So using a guide tube is one way of needle insertion. Another way of needle insertion, we call it freehand. So again, here's my eraser, and we just simply put it in real quick with our hand. That tends to work pretty well for needles that are shorter. And I'll do a combination of both depending on what length of needle we're using. So I've shown you two different lengths. We've got about a 1/2 inch and a full inch. We don't go in very deep usually when we're doing acupuncture. Typically we're just going past the skin, and if you go ahead and pinch your skin, it's not very thick in most places of the body. So to get past the skin, we're talking about a 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/2 of an inch. Most of the time, just maybe 3/8 of an inch is enough depth to access the acupuncture point. So most of the time, patients don't feel much of anything during the insertion of the needle, and if you relax and don't move, once the needle's in, your body generally won't give you any sort of feedback about it. It doesn't mind that the acupuncture needle is in. It only happens to be that initial insertion that most people will feel, if anything. So let's say in a typical acupuncture session, I might use 10 to 14 needles total. And my patients, once they're used to the process, might feel 1 or 2 go in. I work really, really fast to try and avoid them knowing what's happening, and the body doesn't respond that quickly. If I move really fast, typically the body doesn't even know that there's been acupuncture done, like in a good way, as in that it needles in and they don't even realize that it had happened. So, a couple other things. Needles that we use come pre-sterilized in single-use disposable fashion. So there's no reusing of acupuncture needles, there's no cleaning necessary because each one that we use is new and pre-sterilized and clean. After use, an acupuncture needle is disposed of by throwing into a sharps container. You probably have seen those in the doctor's office. It's just that red box with a special top, and we drop the needles in and they are not used again. Before acupuncture, on a body part, we typically swab the area with alcohol. So we'll have a cotton ball and put some alcohol in it, and then we'll swipe the cotton ball on the area real quick. Usually after we swipe it, we'll feel around for the acupuncture point, because acupuncture points can vary slightly depending on a person's specific anatomy. So we swipe and then we feel around and then we find the point and then we do the acupuncture on it. After insertion of the needles, the patient just rests for about 20 or 30 minutes. They take a little nap usually, listen to them soothing music in my office. I put a blanket on them so they don't get cold if it's winter time. And then, they get a little button in case they decide they've gotten cold or something. And then in about 30 minutes, I return and we take out the needles. Usually the taking out of needles feels maybe like a little tickle, no big deal at all. No big deal. And then that's it. Patient gets dressed, walks out the door. So the process of actual acupuncture, if you're willing to try it out, is usually not very scary at all. But just like anything else that you've never tried, of course you don't know until you try it. So I hope that demystifies acupuncture a little bit. You've seen an acupuncture needle now. They're really small. You know that they're, single-use and disposable, and what happens to them after use. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Post them below and I'll be happy to answer them. Okay, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye!